Just to review where we are, the first of the three main elements of classroom instruction that works deals with creating the environment for learning. And we began by looking at the first of three strategies in that category, setting objectives and providing feedback. In the past couple of videos we discussed setting objectives. Now let's consider the issue of feedback. There are a lot of analogies we can make with maps, and here's another one. You're going on a trip on a route you've never been on before. In the pre-GPS days, you laid out your route and you know you're supposed to follow I-75 north to Chattanooga and then continue on I-75 north to Knoxville. So you get to Chattanooga, you get to a fork in the highway. There's a lot of traffic. You have to decide quickly which lane to get in, so you get in the lane and you bear right. Pretty soon, you want to see some type of sign on the highway that says I-75 north or Knoxville 110 miles or something like that to assure you that you're going the right way. If you're going from Atlanta to Knoxville, Tennessee and see a sign that says Welcome to Florida, then you know you've made a wrong turn somewhere. If you've got a GPS, you glance at it to see that you're staying on the marked route. If it keeps us saying recalculating over and over, then you know you've done something wrong. Now, feedback in the classroom does the same type of thing for the students. It either assures them they're making good progress, or it points out where they've gone wrong. Students need to know if they're doing the right things or if they've missed the mark. Now, our book gives us 4 points to keep in mind in order to provide effective feedback for our students. First, provide feedback that addresses what is correct and elaborates on what students need to do next. Second, provide feedback appropriately in time to meet students' needs. Third, provide feedback that is criterion referenced. And fourth, engage students in the feedback process. So let's look at these in a little more detail. First, feedback needs to address what is correct and it needs to elaborate on what students need to do next. This is where the learning objectives we've been discussing come into play. You want to connect your feedback explicitly to those objectives. Unfortunately, much of the time the only feedback we give to a student is something like this: a smiley face, a letter or a number grade, maybe an encouraging comment like, "Good work," or "You'll do better next time." See, these actually tell the student nothing except whether his work was acceptable or not. It's kind of like you go on that road trip we mentioned, but there are no signs anywhere on the highway that say I-75 north or Knoxville 110 miles, so you keep driving until you get to a sign that says Mexico border crossing ahead. By then it's too late. Saying "good work" might make the student feel better, but it doesn't tell him what he did that was good. And it doesn't tell him if there's anything he can do to continue to improve. Instead, give some specific comments that are in terms of the learning objectives. Here are some examples. You showed that you can recognize the main parts of a pipe organ. You wrote a good paragraph with a clear topic sentence and then had 3 details to support that topic sentence. You added the ones column correctly, but you didn't carry to the tens column. You should have worn safety goggles before installing the laser. Be sure you wear protective eyewear over your remaining eye. Now you see, with all these, the student learns specifically what he did well, and he learns specific things he needs to do to improve. It's also helpful to tell students how close they came to reaching the goal. For example, you got 3 of the 4 steps in long division correct, but you forgot to bring down just 1 number for the last step. See, this shows the students, okay, you got the wrong answer, but you're close. You almost got it. Here's the one thing that you missed. So that can be encouraging for them. You might also show them examples of proper work. For example, watch this video again and look for how to select text first before you try to make it italicized. Or look at the example in the text again. Notice how they indented the first line of each paragraph. You see, these tell them specific things to look for in examples, points them to very definite things to do. You see, you want students to learn more and advance through your feedback. You want to reinforce what they're doing right and tell them specific ways to improve. The second aspect of feedback deals with the timeliness of feedback. It needs to be at an appropriate time to meet their needs. Notice it doesn't say provide feedback immediately, but appropriately. The timing will vary depending on the student, the level of learning, and the type of learning. For example, younger students are typically going to need quicker feedback than older students. You don't want to have your kindergarten students do a writing worksheet and then give it back to them with feedback a week later. You want to do it immediately, even while they're still working on the worksheet. But for an older student, you don't have to give all the feedback right on the spot. For the level of learning, students in the early stages of learning something generally need more immediate feedback than students in later stages. This is especially true for skills-based learning. If your students are just learning how to shoot free throws in basketball, you want to give encouragement and suggestions immediately, so they don't practice the wrong thing for any length of time. But for students in more advanced learning, a delay in feedback can be helpful. It can force them to work on figuring out their problems on their own. Back to the basketball example, if a high school varsity basketball player is practicing free throws, he will benefit from working on improvement on his own, with the coach then coming along and giving him some pointers about things he might not yet have considered. And as that example shows, skills-based learning will need more immediate feedback than more content-based learning. Students who are learning how to find the correlation coefficient in their statistics class might need the teacher to give them help and guidance quickly so they can work through the process. But students who are learning the causes of World War I in history class don't necessarily need the teacher looking over their shoulders on the spot. The point is, you need to give feedback in an appropriately timely way for the needs of the students. In the next video, we'll look at the other two aspects of giving feedback: giving criterion-referenced feedback and engaging students in the feedback process.